There's a force inside you, an energy so powerful it can literally create life, but you're throwing it away. While most men waste this vital energy for a few seconds of empty pleasure, a select few have discovered the secret. To retain is to transmute, to hold is to amplify, and to channel this force is to awaken a power the modern world has forgotten. Carl Jung knew this. He called this energy libido, not just sexual desire, but the primal creative force of the universe. And when you learn to contain it, direct it, and sublimate it, you don't just change your life, you change your reality. Today you will discover how seminal retention is not just about self-control, it's about awakening the creator dormant within you. How this ancient practice amplifies your vitality, awakens your creative genius, and connects you with a source of power that few men know. If you're tired of feeling empty, without energy, without purpose, if you feel there's a sleeping giant within you waiting to awaken, then stay until the end, because what you are about to discover here can change everything, forever. There is a force within you capable of creating human life. Think about that for a moment. The same energy that flows through your body right now has the power to create a complete human being. Muscles, bones, brain, soul. Everything is born from this essence you carry. But the question is, what are you doing with this power? Most men treat this force like trash, as something to be discarded at the first impulse, at the first opportunity, on the first screen that flashes. They don't see what they're wasting. They don't feel what is slipping through their fingers. Because for them, it's just pleasure, just relief, just another habit. But the ancients knew, the Eastern masters understood, and Carl Jung, the giant of depth psychology, recognized it. This is not just sexual energy, it's life energy, it's creative energy. It's the very force that moves the universe, condensed inside you. Jung called this force libido. But not in the superficial sense the world knows. For him, libido was the fundamental psychic energy, the fuel of the soul, the current that feeds both artistic creation and spiritual evolution. And when this energy is compulsively wasted, a man doesn't just lose bodily fluid, he loses vitality, he loses creativity, he loses connection with his divine essence. Have you ever noticed how you feel after wasting this energy? The inexplicable fatigue, the mental fog that persists, the lack of motivation for anything that requires real effort. This is not a coincidence. It's not guilt. It's not moral weakness. It's simply spiritual physics. When you compulsively ejaculate, you are not just releasing reproductive cells. You are draining what the Taoists called Jing, the fundamental essence of life. You are depleting what the Hindus knew as ojas, primal vigor. You are leaking what Jung identified as the source of all human creativity. And that's why seminal retention is not just sexual discipline, it's energetic alchemy. It's the art of transforming impulse into inspiration, desire into creation, compulsion into consciousness. Because when you stop wasting this energy, something extraordinary happens. It doesn't disappear, it accumulates, it concentrates, it transforms, and it begins to feed parts of you that have long been dormant. Your mind becomes sharper, your intuition more acute, your presence more magnetic. Your creative capacity awakens. The man who understands this ceases to be an energy waster and becomes a channeler of force. He doesn't repress desire, he elevates it. He doesn't deny sexuality, he transmutes it. And in the process, he discovers something few modern men know. Real power is not in discharging energy. It is in accumulating it, directing it, and transforming it into something greater. Every man who begins the journey of seminal retention notices something in the first few days. The body does not passively accept this change. There is an internal revolution, a pressure that grows, an energy that seeks escape, and that's where most men give up, because they don't understand that this pressure is not a problem, it's raw material. The ancient alchemists knew that true transformation happens under pressure. They placed common metals in intense furnaces, applied extreme heat and tension until something new emerged, gold. The same principle operates within you when you retain your vital essence. The pressure you feel is not punishment, it's purification. Carl Jung deeply studied alchemical texts and discovered that they were not just about transforming metal into gold. They were symbolic maps of psychological transformation. The prima materia, the raw and chaotic first matter, represents the initial state of the unworked man. The process of heating, dissolution, and coagulation represents the stages of individuation. And the final gold? It is the integrated conscious man, master of his internal energies. When you practice seminal retention, your body becomes the alchemical laboratory. The accumulated sexual energy is the prima materia. The constant discipline is the fire of the furnace. And the pressure you feel? It is the process of transmutation happening. In the first few days, you will feel physical agitation, muscle tension, mental restlessness. Some call this a flatline, a phase where the body seems dead, without energy, without motivation. Others experience the opposite, an almost uncontrollable energy, intense dreams, constant erections. Both extremes are normal. They are signs that the system is recalibrating. But here is the secret that few understand. This accumulated energy doesn't just want to sit still. It has its own intelligence. It seeks movement, expression, manifestation. And if you don't give it conscious direction, it will find its own paths, not always constructive. That is why the true practice of retention includes active channeling, intense physical exercise to move the energy through the body, deep meditation to refine and sublimate it, creative work to express it in elevated forms. Without this, you are not practicing alchemy. You are just creating pressure without transformation. Jung observed that sexual energy, when not expressed in a primitive way, naturally seeks higher channels. Art, philosophy, science, spirituality. All these are sublimated expressions of the same force that creates physical life. The man who learns this internal alchemy does not lose sexual desire. He expands it. He multiplies it. He transforms it into something much more powerful, conscious creative energy. And when this happens, the body ceases to be just a container for impulses. It becomes a temple, a sacred laboratory where the most primitive energy is transformed into the highest force, where the animal becomes man, where man becomes a creator. There is a moment on the seminal retention journey when something changes in the mind. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with fanfare. It's subtle, like the sun rising slowly. You don't notice it immediately, but suddenly everything is clearer. The mental fog you didn't even know existed disappears. The average man lives in a constant cognitive haze. He wakes up tired, even after 8 hours of sleep. He struggles to concentrate on simple tasks. He loses his train of thought in the middle of conversations. He feels as if he's always functioning at half his mental capacity. And the worst part? He thinks this is normal, but it's not normal. It's the result of years of wasting the energy that should be feeding your brain. Carl Jung understood that mind and body are not separate. For him, the psyche was energetic, literally fed by what he called libido. And when this energy is constantly drained through compulsive ejaculation, what's left to feed higher mental processes? Modern neuroscience confirms what Jung intuited decades ago. The brain consumes about 20% of all the body's energy, despite representing only 2% of the body's weight. And the highest cognitive functions, concentration, creativity, complex decision-making, are the first to suffer when there is an energy shortage. When you retain your vital essence, that energy doesn't disappear. It is redirected. And one of the first destinations is the brain. After a few weeks of consistent practice, you begin to notice subtle but profound changes in cognition. Concentration intensifies. Tasks that once seemed heavy now flow naturally. You can maintain focus for longer periods without mental fatigue. Memory becomes sharper. You remember details that used to escape you, connect information more fluidly, and process knowledge with greater speed. But perhaps the most striking change is in the quality of your thoughts. The retentive mind thinks differently. It no longer operates in scarcity mode, always seeking the next stimulus, the next gratification. It operates from a place of abundance, of fullness, of real presence. Jung observed that the man who manages to retain and transmute his sexual energy develops what he called active thinking, a form of cognition that is not just reactive to external stimuli, but capable of generating genuine insights from inner silence. It is in this state that truly original ideas are born, creative solutions, unexpected connections between seemingly disparate concepts, because the mind fed by transmuted energy doesn't need to beg for inspiration. It becomes a source of inspiration. You begin to notice patterns that were previously invisible, to read between the lines in conversations, books, and situations, to anticipate the consequences of actions even before taking them. Your intuition sharpens because there is finally enough energy to feed the most subtle and refined mental processes. And then you realize mental clarity is not a luxury. It's your natural state. The fog was artificial, the result of years of draining the source that should be nourishing your intelligence. Now, with the source protected, the mind flourishes. And with it, your ability to create, solve, lead, and transform the reality around you. Leonardo da Vinci never married. Michelangelo remained celibate his entire life. Tesla died a virgin. Coincidence? Jung didn't think so. For the master of analytical psychology, there was a direct connection between sexual retention and creative genius. Not because sex was sinful, but because the same energy that creates physical life can create artistic, intellectual, and spiritual life. Jung called this process sublimation, the transformation of primary impulses into culturally elevated expressions. And he observed that the great creators in history, almost invariably, had a unique relationship with their sexual energy. They didn't repress it out of moralism, they channeled it out of wisdom. Think of sexual energy as water flowing down a mountain. If you let it follow its natural course, it will descend through the easiest valley. Immediate pleasure, quick gratification, momentary relief. But if you build dams, channel the flow, and direct the current, that same water can move turbines, generate electricity, and light up entire cities. The man who practices seminal retention is literally redirecting the flow of his vital energy. And one of the most powerful destinations for this redirected energy is creativity. In the first few months of practice, you may not notice dramatic creative changes. The body is still adjusting, the mind is still reorganizing. But then, gradually, something awakens. A creative restlessness, an urgency to express, an almost physical need to create something new in the world. It can be through art, painting, music, writing. It can be through entrepreneurship, building businesses, solving problems, innovating. It can be through leadership, inspiring people, forming communities, generating social transformation. The specific form doesn't matter. What matters is that the creative force awakens. Jung explained that the genuine artist is one who can access what he called the collective unconscious, the deepest layer of the human psyche, where universal archetypes reside. But this access requires refined, not dispersed, energy. It requires concentrated, not wasted libido. The man who compulsively ejaculates is constantly draining this subtle energy. He may even try to create, but his works lack depth, transformative power. They are cerebral, technical, but they do not touch the soul, because they were created from the mental surface, not from the depths of the being. But the man who retains and transmutes his sexual essence, he accesses creative layers he didn't even know existed. His ideas emerge with their own force. His creations carry something indefinable but palpable. Presence, power, truth. Because they are born from the center, not from the periphery. And here is the beautiful paradox of sublimation. The more you renounce immediate sexual pleasure, the more creative pleasure you experience. The more you contain energy on the physical level, the more it expands on the mental and spiritual in levels. Jung said that the true artist is one who can give birth to himself through his work. And to give birth, whether a baby or a masterpiece, requires concentrated vital energy, directed and invested with love and purpose. The inner artist is not the privilege of the talented. It is the potential of every man who learns not to waste his most precious force. And when that artist awakens, the world is never the same. The body doesn't lie. It reflects exactly what you do with your vital energy. And when you stop wasting it, it responds with a vitality you forgot existed. In the first few days of seminal retention, you may feel weakness, fatigue, and even some symptoms that resemble illness. This is normal. Your endocrine system is readjusting, your hormone levels are recalibrating, Your body is learning to function without the addictive cycle of stimulus discharge, depletion, recovery. But then, something changes. Gradually, you begin to wake up with more energy. Your sleep becomes deeper and more restorative. Your posture naturally straightens. Your gaze gains intensity. Your voice deepens. It's as if the body is remembering what it's like to be truly alive. Carl Jung observed that sexual energy is not just reproductive, it's regenerative. It feeds all the body's systems, from the nervous system to the immune system. And when this energy is constantly drained, the body goes into conservation mode. It slows down non-essential processes to preserve energy for basic survival. Seminal retention reverses this process. With vital energy preserved, the body leaves survival mode and enters prosperity mode, and the effects are visible and measurable. Your skin improves, your eyes become brighter, your hair gains more life, your muscles respond better to exercise. Post-workout recovery accelerates, cardiovascular endurance increases. It's as if you found an internal source of vitality you didn't even know existed. But the most striking effect is in your physical presence. The man in retention walks differently. He doesn't have to try to have good posture. It emerges naturally from an energized spine. He doesn't have to try to look confident. Confidence emanates from a body that knows it is full of strength. Jung understood that the body and psyche are aspects of the same reality. A man with abundant vital energy not only feels better, he literally radiates an energetic quality that others instinctively perceive: presence, magnetism, charisma. These are not personality traits, they are effects of an energetically full body. And it's not just about appearance. Internal strength manifests as real resilience, the ability to withstand stress without collapsing, the ability to maintain focus even under pressure, the energy to persevere when others give up. The body becomes an ally, not an obstacle. The ancient practitioners of seminal retention, warrior monks, Taoist masters, Hindu ascetics, didn't just develop spiritual strength. They developed extraordinary physical strength. Because they understood that there is no real separation between spiritual energy and physical energy. Both are aspects of the same vital force that flows through the human being. When you retain your seminal essence, you are not just saving bodily fluid, you are accumulating prana, chi, vital energy, call it what you will, and this energy does not remain static. Its huestas circulates, revitalizes, and regenerates every cell of your body. The result is a man who does not age in the typical way, who maintains vitality when his peers begin to decline, who possesses energy reserves when others are exhausted, not due to superior genetics, but due to energetic wisdom. The renewed body is not an automatic consequence of retention. It requires active practice, exercise to circulate the energy, conscious breathing to oxygenate the system, clean eating so as not to waste vital force on difficult digestion. But when these elements combine with the preservation of the seminal essence, the body becomes a living temple of abundant vital force. There are men who walk into a room and change the atmosphere, not because they are the most handsome, the richest, or the most eloquent, but because they carry something that everyone feels, but few can name. Jung called this a numinous presence, an energetic quality that inspires both attraction and reverence. This magnetism cannot be faked. It cannot be bought. It cannot be learned in seduction courses. It emerges naturally when a man accumulates and retains his vital force, instead of compulsively wasting it. Sexual energy is the most primal, most basic, most powerful energy that flows through the human being. It is prior to thought, prior to culture, prior to civilization. It is the raw force of life, expressing itself through you. And when this force is preserved instead of dispersed, it begins to modify your energetic field in ways that science is just beginning to understand. The man who practices seminal retention for weeks and months develops what the ancients called ojas, a subtle energetic substance that permeates the entire being. This substance is not physical in a material sense, but it is real in an experiential sense. It can be felt by others, especially by women, who are naturally more sensitive to subtle energetic fields. Jung observed that the unconscious communicates through symbols, but also through energetic emanations. When you meet someone, You are not just exchanging words and glances. You are exchanging energetic information at levels that your conscious mind doesn't even perceive. And a man with abundant vital energy transmits very different information from an energetically depleted man. He communicates internal stability, strength and reserve, the ability to sustain, real presence. This communication happens through imperceptible micro-signals, the firmness of the gaze that doesn't seek but merely observes, the cadence of deep, relaxed breathing, the posture that doesn't strive to impress but naturally commands attention, the voice that emerges from the center of the chest, not from the anxious throat. Women perceive this instantly, even without intellectually understanding what they are feeling. They feel safe in this man's presence, even if they barely know him. They trust his word, even if they have no logical reasons for it. They open up in his company, even if they are naturally reserved. Why? Because on an instinctive level, they recognize a man who has control over his most primitive energies. And if he has control over that, he probably has control over other areas of his life. He will not be impulsive. He will not be destructive. He will not be dominated by forces he doesn't understand. This attraction is not just sexual, it's existential. It is the attraction of one human being to another who has managed to integrate his internal forces instead of being fragmented by them. Jung said that true charisma does not come from personality, but from the connection with the self, the archetypal center of the psyche. And this connection is only possible when there is enough energy to sustain the most refined and elevated psychological processes. The man who wastes his vital energy on compulsive gratifications may develop a seductive personality, persuasive techniques, even superficial charm, but he will not develop a real presence, because a real presence requires concentrated, not dispersed, vital energy. And when you possess this presence, you don't have to do anything to attract. You don't have to chase, convince, impress. Your simple, centered, and energized existence is enough. People are naturally drawn to abundant energetic fields, just as they are naturally repelled by depleted energetic fields. Invisible magnetism is not manipulation. It is the natural consequence of a man who has learned not to betray himself. And the whole world feels the difference. There is a moment on the seminal retention journey when it ceases to be a practice and becomes an identity. You are no longer trying to retain energy. You are someone who naturally preserves it. You are no longer fighting against impulses. You have transcended identification with them. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the gradual development of the total personality through the integration of conscious and unconscious aspects of the psyche. And he observed that a healthy relationship with sexual energy was fundamental to this process of becoming whole. The fragmented man lives divided between impulse and control, desire and repression, instinct and morals. He is in a constant internal war, spending enormous amounts of psychic energy just to maintain a precarious balance between opposing forces. But the man who learns to work consciously with his sexual energy no longer needs to fight against it. He integrates it. He makes peace with desire without being its slave. He honors the creative force without being dominated by it. This integration releases psychic energy that was previously trapped in internal conflict. And this liberated energy can be directed toward higher purposes: creativity, leadership, service, conscious love, spiritual growth. The whole man is not one who has repressed his instincts. He is one who has transcended them without denying them. He feels desire, but he is not compelled to act on it. He recognizes attraction, but is not dragged along by it. He honors his sexual nature, but is not defined by it. Jung said that the goal of individuation is not to become perfect, but to become complete. And completeness includes both light and shadow, both spirit and instinct, both elevation and grounding. The man who practices conscious seminal retention is not running away from his animal nature. He is integrating it into his total nature. He does not reject the body in favor of the spirit. He spiritualizes the body. He does not deny sexuality. He makes it sacred. And in this process of integration, something extraordinary happens. He stops seeking completeness outside of himself. He stops projecting onto other people, especially women, the responsibility to fill him, heal him, satisfy him. He becomes a source, not a well. He offers, not begs. He sustains, not drains. This transformation affects all areas of life. At work, he leads with natural presence, not with forced domination. In relationships, he loves with generosity, not with neediness. In spiritual life, he serves with devotion, not with the expectation of reward. The whole man has understood that true strength is not in discharging energy, but in refining it. That true power is not in dominating others, but in dominating oneself. That true freedom is not in following every impulse, but in consciously choosing which impulses deserve expression. Jung observed that the man who achieves this integration becomes what he called a mana, personality, someone who carries a natural, transformative power. Not because he strives to have power, but because he has become a conscious channel for larger, archetypal forces. He no longer needs to prove his masculinity. He embodies it. He no longer needs to earn respect. He radiates it. He no longer needs to seek purpose. He has become living purpose. And when you meet a man like this, you feel it immediately. This is not just another man. This is a man who has become whole, who has integrated his internal forces, who has made peace with his total nature. This is the ripe fruit of conscious seminal retention, not just preserved energy, but conquered wholeness, not just accumulated strength, but embodied wisdom, not just controlled impulse, but manifested integral nature. And once you taste this integration, you never accept fragmentation as normal again. Brother, you have come this far because you feel there is something greater waiting for you, a dormant force, an unrealized potential, a version of yourself that you know exists, but that you have not yet been able to fully manifest. Seminal retention is not just about sexual discipline. It's about awakening the creator who lives within you. It's about transforming raw energy into refined force. It's about stopping the wasting of your most precious gift, your vital essence. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." Sexual energy is not your enemy. It is your most powerful ally when you learn to work with it consciously. Stop treating this force like trash to be discarded at the first impulse. Begin to honor it as the sacred fuel of your evolution. Retain, transmute, create. If this message has awakened something inside you, do not let it die here. Subscribe to the Seeker channel. We are a community of men committed to genuine inner development, to facing difficult truths about ourselves, and to real growth instead of superficial comfort. Comment: I choose my power. If you are ready to begin the process of transforming weakness into authentic power, share this video with men who need this message, those you see struggling with destructive patterns, but who still have the potential for greatness. At The Seeker, we don't offer easy solutions or temporary motivation. We offer truths that transform, practices that work, and a community of men who have chosen growth over stagnation. Your journey begins now. Master your energy, or it will master you.